Okay, the time being 5:15 on April 1st, 2026, the Library Building Committee for the Jonathan Bourne Public Library is in session, 19 Sandwich Road, Bourne, Massachusetts. Is there anyone who will be recording this meeting? Please identify yourself now.
The meeting was set to auto record when we turned it on.
Right, that's for the minutes, but this is like if Michael Roush from the, yep. And then we're seeing the Jen's a yes.
Well, it says it on the agenda.
How'd I do on that? If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, meeting ID is 730-171-0563. Password is library, capital LIBRAY, capital B, capital C. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes. All right. Let's start with the approval of the March 11, 2026 meeting minutes that Mike sent out.
I move to accept the minutes as written and presented.
Motion second. And we have everybody here, so show of hands.
Aye.
All right.
Perfect.
We do still need to
Okay.
the agenda, the very first one.
Yes, we do. Yeah,
January.
January.
They just weren't ready, so they've been up, but we just gotta approve them. Next agenda.
The March. Yeah, we just approved the March 11th,
Yes.
Yes,
but did we ever approve the January 20th? We'll get that on the next
the
agenda.
next agenda. Okay. Okay, now for the good stuff. Continue the discussion of the OPM criteria, evaluation criteria, and bounce around some ideas on interview questions. Anybody want to start? Do we want to talk about the categories, like similar experience, past references, financial stability, any of that? Do we want to?
Let me ask this question. Are we gonna collect these and have them?
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm.
No, that's a question.
I think
asked
we
before
could do
put
that.
questions together. But what format are we going to do it in?
I think we could, you
From
could
one
email them
script?
after we
So-
discuss them.
Yeah, so there's two things for agenda item number 2. The OPM evaluation was the one we got from
Yes.
Marlene, the sample one that Iceland used. For me, I don't see anything additional, that for that initial individual eval that we have to do on every applicant.
I think that for some of us who are new to this process, so I had questions within the categories. So like under financial stability, do they provide us with financial statements? Who evaluates that part? Like, I don't know that we would know.
So in the bid docs, all of this information is requested in the bid docs.
Right, but are we reviewing those?
So we each individually have to review all the bids that come in. And then we, based on this criteria, if you like this criteria, right? And then after that, we come together, decide who we want to interview, and the interview questions.
I guess my question is define financial stability. That's what I was asking.
Oh, I see what you're
Can
saying.
I,
For
You
those
want
of us who are new to
definitions for
this,
each of these. You want definitions.
No.
Of what's it look
can
like?
I try?
Yes.
So the financial,
Makes sense.
the financial stability one, it's important for the OPM. It's more important for the contractor.
Okay.
But, and in the contract, when you actually go out for construction bid, there's very strict DCAM criteria that you'll get for financial stability. Your review at the OPM level for financial stability is really, you want to try to gauge, and it's not exact. You're not gonna get it audited financial statements, that you're not gonna get that. And you don't need that. But what you're trying to gauge is, you're trying to gauge, is this a business, is this a business who will be in existence for the duration of our project? That's really what we care about. So, sometimes sometimes, you'll be able to see what they're working on, and frankly, if they have one project and they're trying to, they may be a little bit risky because they're not busy enough. And, you don't wanna be the reason why they don't wanna be dependent on you for payroll. So you wanna gauge if you think they're gonna be around.
Yeah.
The other thing is sometimes there'll be questions about mergers and acquisitions. I've run into that situation where, an architect was being purchased in a previous project, and those are questions you can certainly ask, there's legal disclosures that have to be done once you've entered into a contract with them, but sometimes it's worth asking about, are you in the process of mergers with anything? You want to get a handle on, are they so busy with other work that they're not going to necessarily be able to give you attention? Financial stability for your OPM is not gonna be, it's not gonna be your most important area.
Okay, that was the one category that I didn't feel strong,
Yeah.
that I understood what I was supposed to be looking for.
Yeah.
Also too, like, number of projects and even the dollar value of some of the
Mhm.
projects. Will give you an idea of, financial stability, the ones that they've done,
Like years and
types of
business,
projects,
number of
the types of
employees.
projects that they've taken on, the range of,
If you just went into business a year ago.
Yeah,
yeah.
number of employees is really important, I think, because especially if someone is, you want your team, our goal is that our team stays intact. And these are long-term projects, so if there's gonna be key retirements, for any team members, we have contract language that makes it clear they cannot change personnel without notifying us and without our permission. But these are the types of things if you're evaluating two groups and one of them, seems like it may be in flux or a lot of change, that's something to consider. Just because we're at the beginning of what could be a very long process, 5+ years.
Right.
So it's different if it's a project, you're doing a roof and you're gonna be done in 6 months.
So is it fair to say that there's 2 levels of evaluation? Number one, paper, and we decide individually and then together whether some should just be bumped out before, and then we discuss the remaining ones?
Yeah,
So it's possible that as a group, we could be bumping out even more
Mhm.
before we get to our whatever number for interviews.
Yeah, step number 1 is you do an totally independent, on your own, a review of their paper submission. And you'll end up scoring. You'll write down, a numerical score, and then you come together and you discuss. Well, you do that first. You give me all your scores, and then I do a composite. So the group can see as a group who ranked highest as a composite score.
So are you gonna give us that when you give us all the applications that are submitted?
No, you have to score them first. So I'm gonna give you the applications and the score sheets. You're gonna fill out your score sheets. You're gonna give them back to me, and then I do your composite.
Okay, so, but that's at the beginning, like, when we first get all the submissions.
What is that?
I think this was in the packet that you weren't able to.
Yeah, I have that.
Oh, okay.
I just wanna make sure, I'm just trying to make sure we know exactly
Yeah.
what we're getting when and what we're doing.
So bids are due at 4 PM on Friday, the 17th?
I think it's noon. No.
Oh, noon, okay. So bids are due on Friday, the 17th, at whatever time. And
Noon Bourne.
so Friday afternoon, we'll open the bids. We'll put together a package for everybody. And you'll have every bid. And you'll have a score sheet to go along with every bid.
That's right.
Okay, so Friday the 17th, you'll be able to come to town hall and pick those up at the end of the day,
What time is town hall open to?
4:30. And you'll take those and you'll have a week to do your scoring. I will let you know that, I'll let you know what your deadline is, but like, so if the 17th is a Friday, you have the week of the 20th to do your scoring. Then the following Monday is
The 27th.
the 27th. Okay, so like, I will tell you sometime on that Monday morning, the 27th, I need everyone to have given me their score sheet. And then, you can scan them and email them, you can drop them off, but there'll be a deadline. Let's just say hypothetically, 10 a.m. on Monday morning, the 27th. Then I will take all of those, when I get them, I'll put together your composite, I'll send them out I'll give them to Iria, she'll send them out to everyone. So when you meet in the afternoon on the 27th, you will have the composite sheet. And then you'll see the highest ranking firm was this, second highest was that, and then you can argue on your favorites.
Okay.
Depending on how many we get. So I would say if you get, well, depending on how many you get, the goal is to interview at least 3. So you'll have your composites as a kind of a starting point, and then the goal on the 27th is to leave with agreement on who you're gonna interview, who you're gonna invite for interviews. And that should be based on your composite score and then your discussion about the composite score. So some of you, might have, the composite might show that one firm, is middle of the pack, but one of you might feel very strongly for whatever reason, and then you argue why you felt strongly about that one.
And
Does
then
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I
Lucy,
just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
we all knew exactly step by step.
Yep.
What we were getting and what we were doing.
Yeah, so the first step is your independent review on the written materials. And then you come together and talk about the written materials. You decide on your firms to interview. Those will be scheduled for later that same week, so we'll turn that around really quickly. And then you'll interview, and then you can, sometimes building committees leave an interview knowing who they want to recommend. Sometimes it takes another meeting after that. So that's something you just have to kind of gauge.
So we're gonna have like a mini meeting after the interviews on Thursday?
You'll have time, yeah. So if the group feels confident that you want to make a decision on Thursday, you'll be able to do that. If people need more kind of time to think about things, then you'll have that option too. If you need more discussion time.
There would be like 5 days before our next meeting. So whether we do it that night or not, right? For interviews.
and those are pretty much the days that we had laid out.
Yeah, the 27th, that's for not, for the community building,
Yep, and then the 30th at 4.
4 to 7:30. So that hasn't changed.
No, we're still working on that, off of that schedule.
So let's kind of rope it back to the evaluation criteria. Anyone else have any, now that I understand what financial stability means?
Do
No.
we have to make a motion to approve the evaluation criteria? We don't, do we?
No, if you want to use the standard framework then no, we'll just set it up for your project.
Okay.
If there were changes, then I would say, you know, if you wanted to adjust it, then I would say yes, you should probably make that as a motion. We intentionally try to keep them pretty broad. You'll have a lot of discretion as you're reviewing the material.
The only one that I had asked to have added was the marketing and communications piece
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
as an evaluation criteria.
So I think that piece is something you definitely want to get out of the interviews. Because especially for an OPM, they're not necessarily going to address that in their written. That's not what they do.
But isn't that what we want them to do?
No.
So the construction company's gonna have to do the marketing and communication? We had talked,
We wanted, if I can speak for the board, the trustees want them to be, this person or entity to be able to do marketing.
so that's,
I did questions on that too.
They will play a role, but, and I think that's definitely something to talk about in the interview, but that is not their job.
They have to be able to speak to the public though. I think
Yes.
that's the problem.
Yes,
What we're talking about.
yes, but under designer, as the designer selection process, the owner's project manager it's a specific job. And they'll be part of your team, but there should be no expectation that they're a PR firm. So that if the idea is that you want a PR firm, that's separate. But you can talk about as part of the interview, their experience before town meeting, their experience before select boards and finance committees. But an owner's project manager is not a PR firm. They'll be part of it, and they'll need to present to you, they'll need to present to boards. It'll be your call on whether you want them at town meetings. I don't think, I swim in the fire station and we typically don't have OPMs address town meeting, but that, if what you truly want is a PR firm, that needs to be a separate contract. But you can talk about, OPMs don't do Facebook posts. That's not what we're hiring to do.
I don't think that was the intention. I
No.
think it was more to be a communication at town meetings. Have call meetings, for the town, off the town meeting schedule and present to the local communities and what they're trying to accomplish or what we're trying to.
Are you thinking more along public outreach instead of
Yeah.
town meeting?
Yeah, public.
Public outreach, okay. Because town meetings, I automatically think
No.
annual town meeting.
No, public outreach.
Public
Better.
outreach, experience with public outreach.
If we had
Yeah,
a meeting, or we had a public meeting
Sure,
here
public
to
outreach.
go over
Yeah.
what was happening.
Yeah.
That person would
What they
attend
did for
and be able to.
the pathway. They had, public outreach for those.
Sure, we had it for the feasibility study, the library. We had a lot of public outreach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were in that library.
So
Yeah,
the committee did.
the committee.
The
Right.
feasibility study
Feasibility,
committee
okay.
ran it, but the architects, who did the feasibility study, the feasibility design, he had, he helped us through that process and gave us
He participated.
ideas. He
Yeah.
participated and
yes.
gave us ideas, and he was there with the feasibility studies, and he gave us the plans,
the
and
committee.
and he helped us facilitate those things, yeah, absolutely, so. That, like Marlene said, that's a great question to ask, what have been your experiences with participating in public outreach
But I think,
during the interview process, yeah.
and I think it's very important that you use public outreach.
Yeah.
That is.
Don't say town meeting,
It's, and it's not marketing.
yeah,
So I think definitely public outreach is absolutely what you're looking for.
But you're not gonna put it on the criteria for evaluations, for scoring.
And that's not gonna be something that they're going to have in their written proposal. That'll be something that they can certainly cover in their verbal presentation to you. Because it's really the town that drives that, and every town is different.
Do they have like stock, like bids that they kind of put out where I mean, it's generalized, like a generalized bid that they just kind of conform to the
Some of
couple
it will be
things?
boilerplate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Every firm will have kind of their format.
Yeah.
And there will be some boilerplate in there, especially for either resumes and things like that. But they will also, one of the things you should be looking for, I think, is how much do they personalize it?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
the good firms will personalize it.
And you'll know whether they've done their research and made a point to familiarize themselves with the project itself.
Yeah.
And they'll cope with that. And some of them don't. They just like check the boxes and.
It sometimes becomes obvious who really wants to work and who just wants to submit it to keep their name out there for
Exactly.
the next.
They have an interest, but not a vested interest. Yeah. But sometimes,
So we can consider public outreach under other criteria, any other.
Other.
Yeah.
When we're going through. I have a question about identity and qualifications of the consultants who will work with the applicants on the project. So on their dime, they can hire outside people to help
Nothing
them.
is on their dime.
yeah.
100% everything is on your dime.
It's good.
But their dime is the 150. That's where I'm going. So they can't decide that they're going to hire, I don't know, an engineer and send us a separate bill outside of that money.
So OPMs usually don't carry subs. The architect will carry.
Okay, is that why this criteria is here then?
Yeah, so OPMs usually don't carry subs.
Yeah.
The architects usually carry the subs for design, the civil, the geotech. So usually we'll get into dealing with this, with the sub designers at the architect stage. And I think that previous conversation is probably a good example. If for some reason, if for some reason the town wanted to require, I'm not suggesting this, but if for some reason the town wanted to require that the OPM carry a PR firm or a marketing firm, that would be their sub. And they would have to, disclose to you, and it would be part of their contract agreement on who that is. Usually for things at the OPM level, the town carries the town contracts directly. So like, if you did want to hire, you've only got your budget, that's all you have, that's all the money we have, so you've got your budget. If you did want to set aside some of that budget to hire a marketing firm, the town would typically contract for that directly, not through the OPM, because then the OPM would mark it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like in construction, when you get into construction, a lot of times, a sub that the OPM will carry in construction is third-party material testing, because we want to take it outside of the we want it independent of the architect. One of the subs the OPM might carry is third-party estimates. So if there's a third party, it's usually carried by the OPM as a sub, because we don't want it under the architect's control. We want it under the town's control. And so one of the subs you might see on the OPM proposal is third-party independent cost estimating.
But is that getting us really to the next step? Isn't Our main purpose right now is to get an architect.
Well, so step one is getting your OPM, and then step two is getting the money for an architect. And then step three is getting an architect.
So I don't know. I feel like maybe we're getting a little bit too far into the weeds for the scope of what we're tasked to do on this part. No?
No, I would say no.
Okay.
Because this is the person you're gonna work, you have to assume that you're gonna be, you should assume that you're gonna be successful. So this is the firm that's gonna take you all the way through. So even though we don't have money yet and we don't have an architect yet, if we are successful, you wanna have anticipated these questions at this stage, because the OPM is critical the OPM is on the critical path the whole way.
Okay.
So you don't wanna just, it would be, you don't wanna be short-sighted and only hire an OPM that's gonna help you get a ballot question passed. That's no good. You wanna hire an OPM who can manage the project.
And push us over. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have any other interview types of questions? Not that I knew you had questions, but.
What's the OPM fiscal responsibilities? Do we have any?
The building committee is the fiscal agent. So the building committee ultimately controls the budget. Now, the OPM has a responsibility to you to provide you with budgetary updates all along the way. But those are, and you'll hire someone who will have kind of their standard form, and then it'll be your job, their standard budget form, then it'll be your job to ask them to change it in any ways that you want. But they do not have any fiscal fiduciary responsibility. They are responsible for tracking the project costs and communicating those to you. And if they're not doing that, then your job is to fire them. But at the end of the day, as a contractor, they are not the fiduciary, they don't hold the fiduciary responsibility. You do as the building committee, I do as the town administrator, Erica does as the finance director. And it's our job collectively to keep the OPM kind of on our path. And if we're not happy with their performance, then we terminate.
Ultimately, who does the OPM report to? Building committee?
The building committee. Yeah.
Do we have to prove their invoices before we send them to them? Or do they send them to you? For this part, for the beginning,
Yep,
do
no,
they submit to us for review and then?
yes, so the building committee, before I submit any, or actually it would be area. Before area submits any invoices for payment, the building committee votes on them.
Who tracks the money?
You do.
We do.
Just out of curiosity, what's your net on these projects? Like net 30, net 90, how many days?
We're the town, so we take as long as we need. That is one of,
Whatever works for Erica.
that is one of the things about financial stability is like, if people think they're gonna get paid in 30 days, they're not. So anybody working in the public sector knows that,
Yeah,
but yeah,
30 days is a luxury.
yeah.
in the public
Yeah, they submit an invoice. You guys have a building committee meeting, which could be 3 weeks out.
Mhm.
Then you
Yeah.
submit it to payroll and their process takes 3 weeks. So,
So
We didn't
that
have-
is good, yeah,
yeah, no, we don't even commit to 60.
yeah.
You can say 60, but it doesn't have.
I think I know the answer to this one. Would the OPM have any responsibilities in selecting a temporary location or working with us to select?
They will, yes, it's not their responsibility, but that is part of their scope. So that is actually a critical thing for you to talk about in,
Yeah, and helping to identify and what the scope of that would be, yeah.
so I think two very good interview questions are have them provide you in detail examples of other public outreach for municipal projects, how they work with other, how they work with the public, how they, how they present to public boards and committees. And what experience do they have?
With displacement.
Specifically identifying other temporary locations for libraries, but also, do they have additional experience with temporary facilities for any municipal operation? Because that will be that is a complicating factor with this project.
I just have some other comments. I think these are pretty standard in this type of thing, but examples of what can go wrong and how to do rectify it.
And what was the frequency of them updating the committee? If we're only meeting every 3 weeks? Are they giving us a weekly update? How frequently would they update us? Is it only at the meeting?
You set the schedule. But yes, they will only, especially at this point, they'll be reporting to building committee at building committee meetings. Once you're into the depth of design development, there'll be a smaller group that works kind of on a weekly basis with design meetings. And then there's the monthly bill for whatever your tempo is, but you set the cadence.
Who's collecting these signatures, and are we all going to get a list of what we decide as interview questions, or are we all going to keep it?
Yes, that was my question. The first question I had was how we consolidate these questions, and we just bring our own questions and see how the meeting plays out and ask the questions, or because we may not have time to get
Yeah,
through
exactly.
more than 3 or 4 questions.
For the feasibility study committee, everybody forwarded their questions and then we kind of pared them down from there because there was a lot of overlap with what everyone maybe been worded slightly differently. So that we ended up not running over time and people got their questions answered. So maybe we want to forward them to me.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yep, sure.
Because you can't work through email.
Right,
Right.
so the April 27th meeting, I think we should,
Well, that's where you really need to pick your firms.
right, we pick our firms, but if we have time.
Yeah, so
That's all we need to do in the question.
my suggestion is, tonight, you pick like 6 or 7 topics, public outreach, temporary locations, examples of, problems
Conflict.
and how they were resolved. You pick those overarching categories tonight, and then Iria, you and I can work on developing those questions, and then we can send them out to everyone. You just can't talk back and forth, but you'll have that set then to discuss on the 27th.
And the OPM is going to be there for the entire journey with us. So, I mean, because some of the questions I had further on down the road,
Yeah.
more about value engineering and commissioning agents and things like that, that aren't I mean, we're kind of focusing on the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
Some of the questions are more down the road.
yeah,
When we have an architect, when we have a construction firm, how do they manage that heavy group
yeah,
and things like that?
Yeah.
At the end of the project.
yeah. I think asking about that is critical because we all know the hardest part of the project is the last 30 days. Any project.
Could be the last week.
Yeah, but, you know, I think,
Should we ask whether they had experience working in projects through the mass?
I'm thinking,
Yeah, I have
Or
library
any-
specific experience.
Yeah, or any similar grant.
Yeah, so what are we gonna like create the whiteboard, like create the topics, just that we can get
Or
the,
even lump them onto these, sort
just
of.
so we can all, you know, see it and, yeah, and then figure out what we're doing.
who's got good spelling? And neat handwriting, because it's not me.
Nicholas, do we have the markers in here?
Yeah, okay.
I can write it.
I also wonder if when we get the proposals, should we maybe try and squeeze a meeting in between? Because I think the questions will become a lot more apparent when we're looking, maybe I'm wrong. Haven't got a lot of experience doing this, that when you're reading the proposals, you're like, well, wait a minute, what about? And somebody else has it and it's absolutely glaring what they included and what this firm hadn't included. So,
We can't collaborate on evaluating.
no, when you're reading the evaluations, you're gonna look at it and say, this clearly is more detailed or whatever, but this firm on paper seems like, wouldn't this be a good interview question?
That's what you're doing on the that's what you should do on the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we can add good questions in the meeting if something comes up.
Oh, yeah.
If they say something,
Absolutely.
you can certainly question. It's not like we have to stick to the script.
absolutely.
Question.
No, but you're prepared.
No, you're prepared with questions, so you know what information you're gathering them, but they may say something
Guaranteed they will.
that's gonna raise a question. Perfectly acceptable, ask the question.
Absolutely. The questions you're developing now are, the goal is to have these sent to the 3 firms you want to interview, like the night of the 27th. So they're primed to talk about what they want, what you want to hear. So they can build that, when they get the invitation to attend the interview, they'll receive these questions at the same time. So they can kind of build them into their presentation. But you can always talk, ask follow-up and talk about things that they bring up.
All right, so what are the 4 basic overarching interview categories?
Public outreach.
Public outreach. Oh, sorry. Short. Are you gonna write questions under here or no?
I think we're gonna submit them to.
We're just gonna submit, right?
Yeah, if we can get the half a dozen or so,
Okay.
6 or 8 broad topics, and then if you want to start developing questions, we can, or you can hand off the broad topics and we can draft some.
All right, so public outreach.
Previous library experience.
Oh, that's.
The previous experience in the library sector or adjacent sectors.
This is a. So, okay. Well, experience.
But with the municipalities slash.
In public municipal.
Yeah.
In municipal,
I would make it library specific.
okay,
Experience with library projects, including temporary relocation.
Do they have to be certified or licensed or approved by the state to do this? Is that only architects?
They do not have a license. This is
No,
not
not a
licensed.
license so much as, uh,
Certification, like DCAM certified.
yeah, that they have to have met a certain, this.
No.
It's probably Mass
No, not if you like, didn't actually.
Library Building Commission is probably what I'm thinking, that they would have some.
So you do everything from school, I mean, it could be school,
Authorization.
libraries, academic.
What about, stakeholder management, like,
I think that's what you were talking about, but yeah, managing the team, the designer, the contractor, the,
Contractors, or the.
yeah. Close out, commissioning and close out.
Back in.
Yeah.
Budget and schedule management, definitely.
Would that include where we'd ask them, how many, have you been on time, under budget, over budget?
Manage funding gaps.
Change orders.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes,
public outreach / communication, right?
yeah,
Can I
Because
read something?
communicate, public outreach is one, but communication to us is important too.
okay, so I would specify communication with building committees.
Can I read something from the Library Improvement Program? A definition of owner's project manager. Professional who meets state qualifications to represent the applicant from pre-design through post-construction phases by providing independent and competent advice on all aspects of a building project, and who is hired through adherence with design selection law. Responsibilities include assistance with designer selection, participation in cost estimating, general contractor and subcontractor pre-qualification, negotiations with the designer and general contractor, monitoring of all phases of design and construction, regular communication with the library director, and assistance with MPLCP monthly and final reporting. Public awarding authorities are required to engage the services of an owner's project manager for all phases of any building project estimated to cost 1.5 million more. So that's library specific definition as to what this person's supposed to be able to do. So they really, the library specific expertise is going to come in with those monthly and final reports.
So is that different than chapter 7C? That a qualified owner's project manager as defined in chapter 149.
All of the projects the town, all the building projects the town does have to comply with designer selection,
All right,
which is what we're doing right now. So, I mean, I think in January, we emailed out the designer selection policy that the select board voted and everything, so we're following all of that. I would be curious to see what the state standards are that are referenced there. Is there a citation or anything?
It's basically years of experience.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, what you read said that they're required to comply with something. Is there a CMR reference or is there a?
No, this is Okay. See, it says, well, 605 CMR 606.02 is what I'm reading.
Yeah, but the specific reference you said that they,
Yeah, to represent
the state,
and who was hired through adherence with the designer selection law, which
Well,
my
yeah.
assumption is this.
yeah.
Um, yeah, meet state qualifications to represent the applicant.
Yeah, the state I'm not aware of any state qualifications.
And it doesn't cite anything.
And it doesn't cite.
So I got it right
What
here,
it says.
and it's pretty basic, it's basically, if they are an engineer or architect, then they have to have 5 years experience, but if they're not,
if they
then they
are.
just need 7 years of experience in the construction supervisor
Yeah,
role.
yeah.
So it's,
Very
So
basic.
what is that? I'll write it down in here. So what are
um,
you reading?
it's
You want me to-
from the Massachusetts school building.
There are no credentials.
So it's,
So it
You
doesn't,
have like a
hold any
secret
clock.
number?
really,
Yeah, if they are licensed, if they have a
no,
stamp,
I didn't.
then they obviously have to follow
yeah, whatever,
What?
whatever.
their
the license.
professional.
What about, experience with public procurement law? Should that be in the category?
All of them are working with municipalities.
This must be.
I have that one under technical skills.
Yeah.
Because this is frequently asked.
How to ensure all public bidding and procurement
Laws are involved.
So do you want to put a technical skills?
That's what I just, yeah, so I couldn't think of something else, so. Yeah.
If you want,
That's okay, I'll just read that.
I do think we'll probably be able to get a handle on that from their written submission. But I think it's fine to leave it on our interview question.
Okay. Yeah, if it's answered.
Yeah, if it's answered in the technical proposal, that's fine.
And some of the other ones are more, like, some of the ones I thought were kind of more personable to the individual that we're interviewing, right? As an OPM, sort of like, what's something you did in professional experience that had a profound impact on?
A behavioral question.
Like, yeah, a character question. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a lot about how we can communicate, how the
How are you-
communication skills are.
How are you gonna evaluate the answer?
No, not, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but tell us about a time you went
No, but
out
a
budget
person-
and how did you fix it?
Even,
Yeah.
not even,
Please don't.
no, professional experience, not a personal, it's a professional experience.
Right, and how did you adjust?
What type of impact did you have on a project that you may have saw going south quickly?
ask them
And
from the highs and lows.
Yeah, can we ask what they're most proud of in there? Can we ask something like that?
in your professional experience, what are you most proud of?
You kind
In
of made
your
the design and
experience.
construction era before it
Yes,
became
I
a
have.
problem.
Right,
How do you ensure the design
did you
team and
mitigate it,
construction
right?
team are communicating effectively?
yeah.
Tell us about a relationship that became adversarial, how do you handle it?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Oh, the client.
Can we ask about like the number of people on the team, how many people you anticipate?
Well, the narrative should
That
say
should definitely be
in the
covered.
company narrative, it should say employees, number of employees and.
But I mean, on our project, like, are there people?
That should be described in the written proposal.
Yeah,
They should tell us
Yeah,
the company narrative
individuals would
should
be
say,
assigned
yeah,
to this.
yes,
and their qualifications, and, yeah.
Who does this project get
yeah, exactly.
specifically?
Yeah.
And once you read their written proposal, if you have follow-up questions on that, absolutely ask. But that's one of the things that should be pretty well covered.
So the other,
category.
yeah, the other thing, which is, I don't know if it's under budget, which we brought up earlier, I was thinking about something related to dealing with a project during difficult financial times or dealing with financial difficulties when it looks like the budget. I mean, it shouldn't get to that point when it looks like things are getting out of control financially. How are they dealing with that? I have two committees. character type.
Right, how do they mitigate, like,
Yeah,
thing on TA? It's not, I mean, so some projects can get so out of control. Because the OPM didn't, we're just rattling saying, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do
Yeah.
this, let's do that, before we know it's
Make
adding
sure
$1
we have-
million, $2
have
million
the
dollars
deal.
onto a project, right?
Yeah, how do you keep the building committee in line?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Communication.
Yeah.
A lot of things change from 2026 to 2032
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
Yeah, escalating costs, stuff like that.
I hope. But what's the built-in variance in cost that you put in these projects?
The contingency,
Yeah,
I mean, it's higher, it'll start out high and then as we get more and more certain in the design
Yeah.
and everything, we ratchet it back. We usually, when we go into construction, we try to carry at least 10%.
I think for this size project, yeah. So.
I know what our other concern, oh, we did the public demolition issues we talked about.
Yeah, like, temporary replacement,
I'll add demolition to that one, temporary relocation and demolition.
yeah.
Yeah. And change orders, and that should be something that,
One of the questions is, yeah, how do you communicate progress and challenges to the library building committee and to the public? That would fall under like a budget going on. Yeah, but I think, yeah, developing and managing a project from feasibility to construction is, like what you were getting at. So I can't ask what he enjoys most about, he or she enjoys most about the position.
I just don't know how the group is gonna use that to make a decision.
We make the connection, or if he just says, I don't know, he's not our person, I think he or she, I
You
have to
can
say.
ask-
I think that can come out just in regular questions.
Yes.
or like,
So some people though, you'd be surprised, like, a lot of people can talk the talk,
Yeah,
and then you hire them and it's like, what? They can't, this is horrible.
So anecdotally, when we interview people and everybody's on their best behavior, and then we say, so would you like a tour? At the end. And at the end, they've already had their interview, their guard is down. I cannot tell you the number of crazy things that have happened on a tour. That someone took a document and turned it when my attention was diverted, and was like, read, I'm like, what? So, yeah, I think it will.
Well, look what happened to Iceland.
Yeah.
I watched the interviews, and the first OPM they hired was like on point, energetic, had the experience, and
it was horrible. But that's why they work for us and we can terminate them without cost at any time for convenience. So,
his communication was horrible to the committee,
yeah.
bringing forth, budgets, invoices, even the minutes, setting agendas, getting information out. He'd do it an hour before the meeting, and it was crying it at him. Like the committee saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this.
But that's kind of goes to my question, like how often are you getting updated by these people? At what point do you say, okay, where the inmates are running the asylum? That, okay, we've asked for this for 30 days, you haven't provided it, we've asked you.
No,
Right.
we don't do that. We don't, first of all, we don't ask, we tell.
Well,
So,
how did that turn out there? That's, I guess, my point, was that like.
Well,
how
you give it directives, right? But also, they were given directives, and they failed miserably.
Right.
Yeah.
They were
That's
given
why
directives.
Schedule,
Yeah.
okay, we expect an update every 10 days.
Exactly.
yeah, we tell, these are the meeting dates. We expect invoices 5 days before the
The
meeting,
meeting,
like
okay.
whatever you
Right.
said.
Right.
And then
Minutes
they
for
build
meeting.
it, they build it in. So
Yeah.
if you are on a monthly meeting cadence and you want your materials 5 days before the meeting,
Yep.
then you say 6 days before the meeting, everything gets sent to area, so you can then get it out to the groups.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Like, is there, this
We
is our,
give the directive.
Yep.
This is the expectation. That's gonna be the first meeting with the OPM.
Yeah, and then if they don't hit those marks and you're always chasing them,
Yeah.
or you don't get your stuff, then you're like, hey, listen, this is just not working.
Yeah, they should, it costs so much money.
We have something about, dealing with unexpected, issues. I just had that written down here. I didn't go reading all my notes.
Yeah,
These are just bullet points, don't be
I know.
all sub.
Well, that's why I'm trying to see who's
Right.
writing down.
But yeah, no, keep throwing some, yeah,
Almost everything you mentioned is not.
yeah, keep throwing them out, Marlene's writing.
But our meeting is 1 hour. It was 1 hour, did we say?
Well, 45 to present, 15.
We had 15 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
It's not.
which is why we wanna give them these in advance so they can cover. And if they do a good job following instructions, then.
Yeah.
All
It's
the
part of the question, they'll be
It's
like,
all
oh, the answer, the answers,
It's
the
all part of the
answers, the
presentation.
answers.
If they ignored the instructions
Yeah.
and didn't answer any of your questions in their presentation, well then. Take a pass.
You can only hope that it's as smooth as like the feasibility study was, where you have a general consensus before you even have the interviews, just by
maybe scoring, I mean,
the scoring tells you a lot. And then the personalities come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you. Okay.
We're
Say
probably not
evaluating
gonna ask
each
them
other.
anything they have.
Right. And I should probably make sure everyone knows, after you do your interviews and after you make your recommendation, then I do, Erie and I will do the reference check. So we don't call the references for everybody. Once it's narrowed down, and then if anything, but before we actually start contract negotiations, we do the reference check. And if anything comes back questionable, then we'll talk to you first before we move forward with the contract.
everybody comfortable with this? The interview schedule, I think we confirmed the dates for that, and the next meeting dates, we're good there. Anybody have anything else?
So just to recap, if I can, April 17th, the bids will be ready for pickup with the evaluation sheets at Town Hall. April 27th, we're meeting at the community building at 4 PM to, well, no, we have to hand in April 27th,
In the morning.
In the morning.
We'll
morning
send-
of April 27th, hand in our evals.
But I'll send
At-
that,
yeah.
I'll send that in writing.
And then at 4 PM, April 27th, we're meeting at the community building,
Scoring meeting?
scoring meeting. And then April 30th is the date for interviews. Right?
Right.
Okay.
What was the last name?
April 30th, 4 PM.
And that's here, right, at the library.
And it's not quite
wait,
decided
is
when
it
the
here
final
or is
3 will
it-
be chosen.
That's what I have, library meeting room for April
The,
30th.
on the
I think I
27th.
need to check that because I thought there was something about us meeting at the community building.
That's
On
the
the
April 27th.
Oh, that's the 27th.
Yeah.
Oh,
The April
it says that
30th.
right on my paper.
Yeah, the goal
Nicholas, can
on
you double check?
27th is to identify who you want to interview.
So we, at
Nicholas,
the end of the 27th, we need, say, 3.
can you double check that the room is available on
Sure.
April 30th at 4?
Yeah.
I think we.
That's a good number.
Three plus or minus. Yeah.
Any indication on if there's any interest?
From 4 to midnight.
Any, Kurt, any questions? Sounds like it's.
Oh, we've had a couple of I think there is interest. There's a lot of building projects going on right now. So people are keeping an eye on us.
To 7:30.
And this is on April 27th.
April 30th.
April 30th, from 4 to 7.
I'm pretty sure that
I think Sharon did this. Yeah,
Blocked it.
but I'm just,
Yes, it's in as library building committee. interviews.
excellent.
there you go.
All right. All good? Okay.
So
Anybody have any other?
any other major topics? Erie and I will work on some questions and the topics.
So we're not meeting till the 27th.
We'll be at town hall on the 17th.
Yeah, we'll send out a note. We'll send out a note as it gets closer to remind everybody. And if you're not able to come in that Friday,
Yeah.
Monday is a holiday, but, so if you want them over the long weekend, get them on Friday. Otherwise, come in on.
Or I can pick the month
Yeah.
because we're open on Saturday. the
That's
18th.
true, that's true.
So if you can't make it on Friday.
Yep,
That's a zip code and then.
yeah, so we'll figure out a way to get them to everybody. Either at town hall on Friday or at the library on Saturday.
And on the 27th, in case it wasn't already said and I wasn't listening, we also should be setting up a what do we want to, like a format for the interviews, so that we're not all just like popping up questions. Maybe like choose.
We can assign it if you want.
A category.
Choose categories, that's what I'm, or something.
Carlos.
Yeah. Public outreach.
Public outreach on it.
Yeah,
We see presentations.
yeah,
At least the primary questions. and then-
Sure, yeah.
We'll see what
We should all, at least,
and what's
Yeah.
answered, and then also, because we don't get too into the weeds on anything,
you know,
try to be.
yeah, I think I just want each person to ask a question. Just,
We're gonna submit the questions to you by, you say,
so Erie and I are gonna take these major categories. We're going to draft up the questions, we'll distribute that to everyone, and then come prepared to talk again on the 27th with any final revision to the language. So we're not deliberating.
We all took our open meeting.
Did you all do the open meeting?
You people did.
Oh, good.
And it'll really, I mean,
Tedious.
once you have a handle on how many applicants you have, it'll get better. Like right now, we just don't know. So it feels a little overwhelming, but if you end up with 4 proposals, it's not gonna be that hard.
How much did I swim have?
So I swim for OPM
Or yeah, for like the proposal.
had, I think they had 4 or 5 written proposals and they did 2 interviews, I think.
2 or 3? No, I thought they did 3.
Did they do 3? Okay.
Oh, that's Peter. Oh, those are the committee members.
And the fire station
I think this is.
didn't have very many OPMs. They had a couple of architects, but
The fire station?
yeah, the fire station didn't have very many OPMs. We might have just had 1, to be honest with you.
What do you want? Any idea why they were?
It's 6, I assume.
I assume had 6 OPMs,
Yeah.
okay.
And they.
Size of the project?
Well, the fire station building committee had an OPM. And then we terminated and then we went back out and I think people were, it wasn't a great. I think people were not,
Friendship.
yeah.
They got a great one.
Yeah, no, it's going really well. But that's because I built a fire station in another town.
Now she told me she hasn't done a library.
So is this common to like fire an OPM if it's twice? Or is that just,
So I,
circumstances that happen? to be?
It's not common.
Okay.
It's not common. The OPM situation with the fire station building committee, it was an OPM that was brought on board years and years and years ago. It was the same OPM that did the police station. And once the police station was occupied and we realized some of the deficiencies there, it made no sense to continue on. Like, the relationship was solid.
So when we know that name.
Yeah, we know that. And then it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those freak things where he just wasn't performing.
They were waiting there, like, it just didn't happen.
And that's a project on a very aggressive schedule. Like, we made that very clear from the beginning. We have to get this done in a certain amount of time because we had to move them out of the space to build the next cell. So they had a very aggressive schedule, which was perfectly clear. And he was put it on a more typical project scale where he thought like we weren't serious or something, but we were serious.
Do you think they were overwhelmed? Is that why did he just?
I just don't think it worked out well.
Yeah.
Just didn't
Was it
follow
the
through.
individual OPM that was assigned, or was it the firm?
It was a very small firm,
Okay.
so
Usually firms are bigger that they can make it work, but if it's one or two people.
I think there's pluses and minuses in both. I do think you get if you get a good small firm, you can get a much more personalized experience. Whereas if you're working with one of the big firms, you pretty much have to get plugged into their process, and there's not a lot of flexibility. So that is definitely a trade-off.
What is small firm opposed to a big firm? Are we talking like 5 opposed to like 20, or is it?
I mean, the big firms can be hundreds.
Okay.
You know, some of the big firms they have offices all across the country, very corporate. I mean, some small firms can be 3 people. It can
So that
be,
can be tough.
yeah, it can be tough. Yeah.
We can get overwhelmed very quickly.
Yeah. So you kind of do want to have a handle on how they're balancing their workload.
Yeah, how many current projects are going on, how many employees they have. Give you an idea what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, so that's also gonna be tough to figure out their, financials if they're only doing a few projects, but they only have a few employees.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so as long as things make sense logically, and the other thing we have to remember is our project's not funded. So, an OPM might be is bidding on us, but they also understand we may not deliver a project. So they're gonna put a bid in and they're gonna schedule us for the the schematic level and see if we get funded. So it works kind of in both directions. They're taking a risk on us too, because we're not funded.
You had to bring that up, didn't
But that's the reality, like, we
I know.
have to be realistic about it.
So there's a potential that we might have to do this again once we get funded, if they determine that they can't carry on. Or
No.
We're not.
I think that would be very unusual. I think we need to be, in the interview process and in the discussions, we need to be clear. We are hiring someone for the duration of the project. We are not funded. We're anticipating funding, next spring, but that's not guaranteed. But I would not recommend that. And people who do a lot of public work do this. They understand the town meeting and ballot question issue. I mean, the fire station wasn't funded when we hired our OPM, so it's, and I can't, I would find it very odd if an OPM canceled the contract. Usually they just wait. And, we're plugged in as their client. They have us on their list. They're just doing other things while they wait for us to get the money.
Just we get bumped down the line. But I mean, we can't foresee that. We have to we'll just have to see what happens. We do have the ability to fire them if they do.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that a motion?
That's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those-
Aye.
I,
I-
Thank you.